the other campuses too.
Great.
Well, so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this wonderful show. And I'm Ritu Jolly from the IIHM Kolkata studio. And we have a very special chef here with us today. We have Chef Prakash Chettiyar, the executive chef of JW Marriott Kolkata, with us here today. Welcome, Chef.
Thank you, Ritu, for the warm welcome, and looking forward for the next 30-40 minutes I'm going to spend. Looking forward for it.
Absolutely, and thank you for taking time out. And our students are really eager, to hear you speak and to participate in this. We're really looking forward to a good discussion this afternoon.
Sure.
So, Chef, I was just discussing with you a while back, and you're talking about your journey. It's been a really interesting journey that you've had. Joining Oberoi's, and then you joined management training. You prepared yourself. Tell us a little about your journey after you graduated in, I think, the year 2000.
Yes, exactly. So it's been, I'm sure, the kind of young talent who are watching this, or people who are joining or graduating from the hotel management. I started my career long back, around 2000 is when I had graduated from IIHM Chennai. And after graduating from IIHM Chennai, I had joined Pride and Cochin, which was my first job. And like all the students, you always aspire to get into one of the best brands, and you want to be part of the management training program. So I always aspire to be part of the Oberoi Center of Learning and Development as a chef trainee. And there were some great inputs which had come from Pride and Cochin, and that's how I managed to get into OCLD after 2 years of working in the entry level. Some great mentorship and training which happened in Oberoi, and I think so that kind of really shaped my career. Meanwhile, when I was part of the OCLD, we had a lot of exposures in different properties, the Oberoi New Delhi, of course the Oberoi Maidens, Oberoi Udaivilas, Oberoi Bangalore, Oberoi Grand Calcutta, and finally I got posted as a chef, as a full-fledged chef, you could say, as a kitchen executive. That's what the designation was at point of time, 2004. And that's how my professional chef journey started in 2004. And my first posting, in fact, coincidentally, was the Oberoi Grand Calcutta. And from Oberoi Grand Calcutta, I moved on to Pride in Chennai. From Pride in Chennai, I had moved to Shimla. I'd been there for a while. In between, I had spent some time even in the Oberoi Gurgaon and Oberoi New Delhi. I had the rare opportunity to represent India in the year 2007. There was a big Incredible India campaign which happened in Germany, where all the international countries participated. India was the host nation, so I represented India at that point of time, and that was an amazing experience. Yeah. And that's how my career moved. And from Shimla, I moved out of Oberoi's and finally got a good opportunity in Marriott. And it's been around 4 years with Marriott. And from Kochi Marriott, I've come down to JW Marriott Kolkata. I think that's a snapshot of my career.
Lovely. So you worked for 2 years and then you joined OCLD.
Exactly. I'm sure a lot of students and people who graduated from hotel management or management institute in hoteliering would understand that during those days in 99 and 2000, the opportunities were not as high as what it is today. I mean, today's generation is very lucky. The amount of opportunity which they get, not only in hospitality, they have, you get into nutritionist, you can be a food, go and join a food technology. There's so many food companies coming with so many innovations. There's so much happening there. But unfortunately, 99 and 2000, there was always the ITC, the Taj and the Oberoi's. And these three were the kind of pioneers in Indian hoteliering. And it so happened that everybody aspires to be in at least one of them, and you try to work towards it. So personally, I worked hard towards reaching there, but I got shortlisted in mostly, I think, so the TMTP, that is what it was called, for Taj Management Training Program. Then we had the OCLD, as well as even the WMI Management Program, but I didn't get selected in any one of them. I came down to the final round and used to get chucked out.
Chef, may I request you to be just a little louder? I think your voice sound is a little soft, it's a little low.
Oh, is it? Okay, let me just check my volume. Yeah. Is it better now? Maybe I should come closer to
Yes,
the.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, like all the students, I'm sure you aspire to be in the management training program, and I got rejected in of all three: ITC, WMI, as well as OCLD, and that was kind of a big shocker for me. And as I always aspired, and I didn't have any kind of a backup. And eventually, by the time I graduated from IIHM Chennai, I didn't have a single job in my hand. I was shortlisted in 2, 3 places, but there was nothing which is concrete, which is coming up. So that's how my journey started as a commie in Pride and Cochin. Not many people would have heard. It's a new property. At that point, it was a very new property, but it was a very young and a vibrant hotel, which kind of helped me thrive and learn a lot of new things. And I joined as a commie and worked there as a commie for 2 years, keeping my focus towards being a chef trainee in OCLD, and I was the first batch of the internal candidate when Oberoi started hiring, and I
Oh,
was one of
wow.
them. So that's where the journey started. Again, I mean, after getting a foothold.
Lovely, lovely. That's really nice. That's lovely. Tell me, what would be your advice to the students who aspire for management training program? What are the things that they need to focus on? How should they prepare themselves?
Oh, there are a lot of things, to be a management training program. There is no kind of any kind of a foolproof system. There are times when you trying to learn all the theoreticals, you're very good, strong in practicals, but there are chances that on that particular day you not kind of presented yourself well, and maybe in all the other days you had presented yourself to the lecturer and the institute and all. So there's always an X factor in getting into management training program, and I think so that is something which you need to learn as early as possible. If not, you should keep that in mind. So what I tend to do is in hotel management, you need to be an all-rounder or the most versatile person in terms of trying to pick up maximum knowledge, whether it be newspaper, it could be your culinary knowledge, or it could be F&B knowledge, housekeeping, front office. All these things. Try to pick as much knowledge as possible. It goes on in long run. What I have seen certain times is that we become one-dimensional in trying to learn one thing. I think so. You should be three-dimensional and trying to present yourself as a well-rounded personality and as a professional. I think that will help in long run. And I think so. You should not be too harsh on yourself, because there's plenty of opportunity which is coming up. And as time comes in, we'll have very, very creative things happening around in the food technology and when it comes to food.
All right, lovely. So, what are the changes that you have seen in culinary? Since you started your career in the year 2000 till now, it's been a long journey. What are the changes that you have seen in these 2 decades?
I think the major change which I have seen is
The various trends, that come in, the newer trends and so on.
Yeah, exactly. So when you look at food and beverage as a trend, you've seen a lot of things happening around. Like in the 90s, when you used to enter a five-star hotel, you used to generally find the doorman, standing with a lot of his highly heavily embroidered coat, and you would have a lot of character person out there. And when you used to walk in out there, you should always find that everything used to kind of be in a lot of you could say a lot of history written all around most of the hotels, and they had a lot of colors, and you could easily identify yourself with those kind of properties out there. And just a simple thing like being, if you look at the food which we used to serve in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was mostly, maybe most of the dishes were classical in terms of food, and in terms of beverages, it was very classical and as simple as if you used to take the server used to take an order, it used to be taken a handwritten KOT, and then the server used to come and kind of serve the food. And now, if you just move back as a time machine and come to now, it's the server is equally as flamboyant and as smart as the guest used to be. And the doorman is more or less not there in all the hotels. It's you find a very savvy looking person trying to welcome you in. And when you move around the restaurant, you can find there's so many other brands which is coming up. So you have the contemporary design, like you can tell that W Goa. There's some property. There is Aloft, which is very trendy and kind of the youngsters will be able to relate to it. At the same time, you have the super luxury of the Ritz Carlton and the JW Marriott, and select services of Sheraton, Le Meridian, and of course, each hotel, each company has its own branding. So you'll find there is place for all of them. And now I think so the appetite for the customers when it comes to chancing upon luxury and food and the eliteness is very high. So that is a big change, a big shift, and the spending power by God's grace, it's increased. That's the reason we've got so many platforms, so many hotels opening up.
Right, lovely. With hotels opening up now, and most of the hotels across India are now opening up, and restaurants are opening up also. So in this new normal, safety and hygiene has, of course, have always played a very, very important role in the hotel and in culinary. But now it's all the more important. The entire focus is on safety and on hygiene. What are the changes that you brought about in your kitchen in this new normal?
Yeah, I think so. It's very clear, Ritu, as you rightly spoke about the hygiene and sanitation piece. And it is like one of the mandatory factors, at this point. If you open a restaurant, like we opened a restaurant on 8th of June, and it was very clear if we were not sanitized and we couldn't comply to the hygiene standards of Marriott and the local body, we won't be able to open it. So it was as clear as the fact, even if you would have the best chef and the best looking restaurant and you have the best cutleries, crockeries or plates, it doesn't matter. So the reality check was that you need to get down to the basics of hygiene, whether it be grooming, uniform, the way you sanitize your plates, the kitchen, the way you present yourself. If you're a chef, if you're standing in the restaurant, you should be presentable where, the customer and the guest feels that they are really in safe zone. And this kind of pandemic which corona is, and kind of fear and anxiety it has got it, we wanted to get back into the industry. We wanted the industry to roll back, and it was very important that we adapted very faster. So if we are kind of laid back and waiting that who else is going to open and what are the sanitization techniques and this thing, then you kind of you're way behind in the race, and you tend to lose out the guests and the customers out there. So what was important in this was we did a lot of intensive training, events. When it comes to kitchen, you can talk about sanitization of your chopping boards, sanitization of the knives, vegetables, all these sanitization processes. So we had to kind of go back, check again, is it effective enough? What is the measuring apparatus used for the ppm? What should be the strength of the chemical? Also, what happens is just 3 months before that, there are chances that we would have taken kind of bit casually saying that it doesn't matter. Eventually, we'll handle it out. But now there is no leeway as such. You can't even leave 0.5% of hygiene, because with corona kind of creating a lot of fear, and as a restaurant and a hotel, we're trying to make a lot of more positive impact. It's very important we stick to the basics of them. And I'm very glad that during the lockdown days, whenever you used to open any kind of a TV channel, you used to always see all these celebrities just talking about washing your hands for 20 seconds after every 20 minutes. Then you need not always wear a face mask. And then, I have a young kid at home who's 12 years old, kept on asking me, why is it important that we are showing the same thing again and again wherever we go? It's because as Indians, what I've realized is the hygiene is not a habit. We need to make hygiene as an habit, and it starts from us. We need to educate our associates. We need to associate students. We need to educate our guests. There are a lot of time guests will come and say, "Oh no, this is all fine." We need to educate them. It's for his good and her good, and as well as for our good. That's how this industry will thrive, and even the profession.
Very true. Absolutely. It begins from home, and I think something that we need to inculcate. And I think you said a very important point over here. It's very important to adapt to the changes that are taking place right now. That's very, very important, because change is the only constant, really. What has kept you motivated all these years, Chef?
Motivated. It's a good question. I am glad, Ritu, this question is coming. Exactly, when I started my career, I'd given myself around, maybe that point of time when you start your career, you always have to, and you being from the industry, you also know that, if you had to become an executive chef, it's like minimum given, like you need to work for 15, 16 years and all. But now things have changed a lot. You can become an executive chef of a small property within 12 years, 13 years, depending upon your personality. But as a person, I was always as a slow learner. There were a lot of students around me who were very quick learner, and I am sure they were more smarter than me. But I took my own time. I was not in kind of pushing myself. I always wanted to be an executive chef of a luxury property and in one of the prominent cities out there. I'm glad as I talk and you ask me this question, I'm representing JW Marriott Kolkata as the executive chef. So I believe that whatever steps I've taken, I had great mentors and great chefs around me, even GMs, who have guided me the right way. And there have been a lot of failures and mistakes and blunders as well. But I think so I've taken that in a positive way out there, and not letting the situation get better of me. I've always tried to keep myself out there. And of course, family, friends have always been there around. And it's quite very. You feel very happy. You asked this question, I've got the right answers today, and we are able to talk on it.
Lovely. I mean, we have a lot of our students who all aspire to become chefs, and they watch a lot of TV shows and they see the celebrity chefs, and of course they all want to become a chef. What goes into becoming a good chef? What are the ingredients of becoming a good chef?
Oh, it's a good question, and I think so. I would take some time to reply that. I mean, there is no such thing as being a great chef or a fabulous chef, versatile chef. I think so. What I've realized, the chefs whom I've seen who've been really successful, not in any kind of a time period or something, are people who've been very honest to themselves. They know their own strengths, and they have continuously pushed themselves to learn something throughout. I have seen chefs who after a while have kind of become very complacent, or rather kind of use in the common word you say, you get into a comfort zone. You need to, as a chef, you need to continuously push yourself and try to adapt to the new trends and what is the new technology which has come into the culinary world. What are the customers needing it? What they want to see on the plate, not what you want to see on the plate. And somewhere down the line, we need to get the marriage down on both the things out there. And as I just mentioned in the starting of it, it's very important that we need to adapt to a situation. So we need to be very flexible in terms of handling our own team members, our associates. The most important person is the customer and the guests who come there, because their demands keep changing, their taste keep changing out there, and it's not so easy to adapt to their taste and liking. So there you really need a great temperament, and I think so you need to show a lot of patience in trying to handle that. I think that is one of the important property. And one piece of advice, if you want to be a great chef and all, is always keep in one thing in mind, is that we are in a profession like which very rarely, it has this importance. Even during, if you look at the Corona pandemic stories out there, the most circulated stories were how we are trying to help people when it comes to travel to their home. And the other second thing is how we are managed to give them 2 meals. And in hotel industry, this is exactly 2 things which we do. We try to give a good sleep to our guests, comfortable sleep. The other thing, we try to give them the best hygienic meal. And this, nobody is going to take away from it. So whatever little we do and more we do around it, it's always going to benefit in the long run. So we are there in the right place and we are doing the right things out there.
Right. And you've also mentioned it's very important, when we were talking last, we mentioned it's very important for them to understand that it's very important to take baby steps.
Yes.
That you're mentioning that's really important for, for youngsters who are just starting their career in kitchen. Yes. They need to focus on that.
This is just case in point. When I was very disappointed, I didn't get through any of the management training program, and there were a lot of questions. I had a lot of anxiety. I was a 20-year-old boy or a man, I didn't know what to do next. There were hardly any opportunities. So that time I had spoken to one of the friend of mine or a senior who was working in one of the task property. He told me that Prakash, don't bother about this designation, about the title that you need to be a kitchen executive trainee and all. So first and foremost for you is to get a foothold in the industry. And that what he meant was whatever position comes, you just pick it up and start rolling. That is when you are always there, because your resume, there should not be, if there is a genuine health reason, there could be a gap in your resume, in your career. But try to always be in the role, keep doing something out there. So that's when I picked up this property, Trident Cochin, which was a 96-room property. And I had heard, because it was part of the Oberoi group, but it was not very popular like the Oberoi Mumbai or the Oberoi Delhi property. But that's when I decided, let's take a chance, take some a risk, and let's go ahead and try to give your best out there. And then, God willing, we'll see what happens out there. And thankfully, everything worked out there. So for the youngsters who are watching this, I would like to say that whatever opportunity comes in, if it's, there are different kind of stress these days. Either there's a lot of job stress, or there is you are under stress because you don't have a job. So it's always better to have a job and then have a stress. You will enjoy that kind of a stress, and you will tend to learn a lot more things being on the job floor. So that's my take on that.
What would your message be to, what advice would you give to the young culinary students who aspire to start their own little business? Home delivery and takeaway is what is very prominent now in this new normal. Hotels as well as, many of them have their own little bakeries that they've started from home, and they're starting.
Okay.
They're very enterprising, so they've started a little home delivery and so on. What would your advice be, to them? How should they focus, and how should they go ahead with this?
Yeah, I think so. It looks quite a enterprising bunch of students which we've already got into as you said, home delivery, as well as they've done got into catering. I think so. Hats off to the youngsters, and that goes on to show the kind of support which they get from their parents and from
especially now with Swiggy and Zomato.
Exactly.
It becomes all the more, it's all the easier for them.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it just goes on to show the kind of opportunities. If you got to do with the food industry, there's multiple opportunities for it. I think so. Before, I'm sure they've got into thinking something good for themselves. I would just like to add the fact that, if you're getting into an entrepreneur, you want to open your own restaurant, or you've already opened your bakery, we also have to, just have to see around in Calcutta. Bakery is, you find a lot of good bakers. You can name the thing which comes to your mind is Nahom's in Newmarket. Then you have, of course, Cookie Jar, and of course the Mia Morois. There are multiple brands which is there out there. So I think so, the endeavor should always be to how to stand out among them. And for that, you need to have one specialty dish of yours where you need to make it as a talking point. And, I'm talking to Ritu of, IIHM, and I think so. The kind of marketing which we have learned from Dr. Bose and from the team out there, you have to just pick a cue from there. But you need to sustain it. So there are times when you are able to make an impact, but you're not able to sustain. So they have to pick any one or two dish. It could be, if I'm a baker, I need to make the best hot chocolate mud pie in Calcutta. And I have to kind of market it so much that you are able to concentrate on that and create a recall value. That was my piece of advice. I think so. Marketing is a critical piece in the world which we are. Second is, I think so. You should know if achieving this, will you be able to reach your goal? If you want to be a general manager of a resort property somewhere in Hong Kong or maybe in Australia, will being a baker now help you to reach that place? You should continue. But the moment you think that if you're doing home delivery and you feel that there's some dissonance, I think so you should right away stop it. So it's important that what you should match with your goals, your present actions, and then only you will be able to achieve your goals out there. There are times when somebody says, my friend has opened a bakery, so let's open a Chinese outlet. You do that, then you realize, oh my God, there are so many Chinese restaurants in Calcutta. It might not be a great choice out there. I think that is one piece of advice which I have to go. I've got a small story. Can I share the small story?
Yes, please. Please, that would be lovely.
So I think I had seen one of the Facebook videos, and I'm sure a lot of you watch Facebook videos. So there was a gentleman, well-learned gentleman, and he's a Swami or a yogi, and he was asked this question whenever he finds a very young person who wants to achieve a lot in life. What are the things which we need to keep in mind? And he had a story of honeybee and the fly. So he says you need to be like a honeybee because honeybees primarily it always looks out for a nectar. And the classic example he gave, if you see a honeybee, even if it goes in the garbage area or in, where there is a lot of dirt and filth, it still tries to find where the nectar is, where the pollen is, and it can kind of absorb or keep the nectar. In contrary to a fly, even if you send the fly or it goes somewhere in one of the most beautiful gardens and all, it ends up looking for the garbage area. So eventually, even if it has got a lot of beautiful flowers, beautiful place, a nice smell, and it still ends up looking at the garbage. So we as individual, we need to be like the honeybee, and we need to look into the fact of we need to look into the goodness of each and every situation and each and every place. And the value of honeybee is definitely higher than a fly, and it's that character which we need to kind of in depth inculcate in ourselves out there. Now, as we just spoke, Ritu, such tough times, we are not sure how the industry is going to do. To be very frank, we do not know how the world is going to change. So we are just a small part of this world. So we hopefully should look at the positive things out there. Just 3 months back, Ritu, I was talking to one of the Michelin star chef, and we kept on talking about how are you going to plate the food. My plate should look really good. I charge 2,000 rupees for a meal. There are multiple talks out there. 3 months down the line, he is also doing the same thing what we are doing. He is also into home delivery. He is also trying to do a takeaway. So it's kind of everybody's come to an even, and everybody's career is more or less on even. Everybody has to start from scratch. I'm happy that the students who will be graduating on 2020, they are also going to start from scratch. So are we. So I think so. Their energies and their positivity is going to help us in taking us forward ahead. I think that's how I like to sum it up. My thought on culinary.
Great, and thank you so much. Thank you so very much. I think there was a wonderful, some great advice really to the young students who are going to start their careers and so on. Before we end this session, Chef, what would be your message to youngsters who are, aspiring or who are thinking of pursuing hospitality, of joining hospitality and studying hospitality? What would be your message to them?
I think so. You have chosen the right industry. Hospitality industry is definitely going to boom. And if you see the fact that, as I mentioned during my chat, there are two things which every guest they're going to travel, they're going to look at is one, they always like to have a very comfortable sleep. And second is have a great meal. And not coincidentally, all our energies are always there. You always want a guest to have a great sleep in your hotel. You need to have a fabulous meal out there. So your start might be a bit rocky, but I would advise you to pick up any opportunity with any good company, or even if it's a small hotel, just pick up the opportunity and move ahead. It's very important that you do not kind of get stuck in the fact of brand conscious, or you need to be in a very big hotel. Even if you get a small opportunity, try to thrive in. As I mentioned, you try to get a foothold in this industry, and it could be in any hospitality industries which has got to related to with food and as well as rooms. And I'm sure going ahead, you'll find a lot more opportunities coming in out there. Being one of the one of the biggest democratic company, our economy is just after China and of course US, China, and ourselves. We are there in the right country, and I can see a lot of things opening up. And if we can see a lot of businesses even coming back. As we talk about the hotel industry, we've seen businesses coming back in South Korea. I've got friends in Australia, New Zealand. They're coming back. Hong Kong, despite the political uncertainties, there are a lot of things which is coming back. And you have Thailand, Vietnam, Southeast Asia, which is doing really good, which is not that far from India. I'm sure that will slowly flow into this thing. And maybe you give yourself a couple of months or so, I'm sure they'll get something great going ahead.
Great, thank you very, very much. That was really nice, and Thank you. And do you have any questions, students who are here? Okay, so we have one question here. I think we both read that question.
Yeah. I would just like to say the fact that, there's definitely a job opportunity in all the hotels in all the sections. It's only that as of now, we've not opened up any kind of positions. It's purely because the business levels are low. But going ahead, we'll definitely have a lot more positions which is coming up to answer the question.
Fantastic. And on that note, a very big thank you from all of us. It's been really wonderful speaking with you as always. And thank you all very much and wish you a wonderful weekend and all the best as you start operations in hotels once again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I thank you. Thank you. Pleasure.
Great. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this afternoon for a discussion with Chef Prakash Chettiyar from JW Marriott Kolkata. Wish you all a wonderful weekend. Stay safe and stay well. Signing out of the IIHM Kolkata studio.